Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
Let's go ahead and shift our focus to the Eastern Conference Finals, where the Miami Heat tonight have taken a commanding 3-0 lead on the Boston Celtics. In game one, they went into Boston and won 123-116. Game two, they won 111-105. And game three, tonight, they won 128-102 in dominating fashion. So what have you learned from this series?
That I might just pick against my team every single time. This is hilarious, but it's just so odd to me if you look at this team. It's like complete stark differences from the postseason last year. I think we had issues with closing out games. We could not close out games. Our shooting fell off a cliff in the postseason last year, and then all of a sudden, everything is flipped. We're able to close out games. It never feels like in close games that we lose control. We're always poised, and then of course, the shooting is just off the charts. I mean, tonight, Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, a bunch of guys came in and hit threes. Kevin Love, before he went out, had a couple good shots. Everybody just contributing from this team. And then the defense has just been phenomenal. Just rotations in the 2-3 zone have really given Boston a struggle. And, when I look at this team, I couldn't imagine this a month ago. I mean, it was complete opposite. A month and a half ago, I was telling myself, oh, what can we get with this 14th pick? I mean, who would be available for the Miami at the 14th pick? And now all of a sudden we're sitting away from one win from the finals. Is just a crazy turnaround. And, a lot of credit goes to Spoelstra and these players. A lot of people talk about how these guys are undrafted and, they were barely, they shouldn't even be in the league at one point. And then now they're playing in the conference finals, performing at this high level. I think it just speaks volume to the Heat scouting team and the development crew. I mean, you got guys like Gabe Vincent and Duncan Robinson and Caleb Martin and Cody Zeller and a lot of these guys who wouldn't be starters on other teams, and they're sitting here contributing to this team that was an 8th seed. And of course, you got the star in Jimmy Butler. I mean, this guy, every single night he brings it. Every single time he's as reliable as it gets in the playoffs. When it's the playoffs, is Jimmy Butler's time, and he asserts himself. And Grant Williams, he really messed up in that game too, talking trash to Jimmy Butler. That really woke him up, because I feel like in that game, Jimmy Butler was really struggling to find a rhythm, get in his groove, and he was able to get to his spots. But Bam Adebayo, someone who I've been singing his praises for the longest. We talked about this before the series started, that he needed to have a big series, and he's been nothing short of phenomenal, offensively, defensively. I mean, this guy, when you talk about his impact, it's as good as it gets. I'll never understand people disrespecting this guy and comparing him to guys like Aiden and Sabonis and all these other below tier centers that shouldn't even be next to Bam, and the impact that he brings. And on the flip side, when we're looking at the Boston Celtics, I mean, I think we kind of fell in love with the idea of the Boston Celtics and who they were last year versus who they actually are now. I think we were refusing to see this team as it is now because it made no sense that this team went to 6 against the Hawks. That shouldn't have happened. 7 against Philadelphia, and then now we're sitting here up 3-0 against them. When you look at this team, Malcolm Brogdon, at times he has been a disappointment in this playoffs. Derek White, after that first series in Atlanta, he's really took a step back. Al Horford's shooting has just been wildly inaccurate, and then Rob Williams' defense and Marcus Smart's defense fell off. It's really just Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown who have been the two guys that have been the main focus for this team. And Jaylen Brown, this is a guy that I've been talking about. You guys know how I feel about Jaylen Brown. I've said this for a while. He gets number one usage and, he gets number one shots, but when it comes to number one expectations, it's not there. You have people screaming Jaylen Brown is the best player for the Celtics. He's a guy that they need to turn to. It shouldn't be Jason Tatum. That's the number one option. Jaylen Brown has Mamba mentality. Jaylen Brown has not scored 30 points since the Atlanta series. Not once has he scored 30 points. I mean, when you look at this guy, how could any single team give him 30 million? He has a problem dribbling. He has a problem playmaking. He has tunnel vision. When he gets walled off in the paint, he starts taking contested shots. I think he's 2 for 20 from 3 in this series. Like, Jason Tatum to me is clearly the best player in this series. He's clearly the best player on the Boston Celtics. And for people to come here and sit and tell me that Jaylen Brown is the best player on Celtics, I feel like is a complete disrespect, and I'll never understand it. I can never support Jaylen Brown. I just don't see it with him. I don't see him as a number one option. Your number one option being unable to dribble and play make just makes zero sense to me. And if the Boston Celtics pay him $300 million, that's good for me because I'll be seeing this team for a while. So
Miami, man. Abdi, man, you gotta stop going against your guys.
now
Even
I'm keep picking against them.
tables,
It's
even like
working.
it's not even in your odds.
Yep.
It's not
Yeah,
even
Nuggets in 4 now.
Nuggets are 4 now. Man, Miami, Jimmy Butler and Bam, those two guys, they phenomenal guys, phenomenal players, and they came into this series with a mentality. And Bam, yeah, you just got to shout him out. This guy, season from All-Star break to the beginning of the playoffs, numbers weren't there. People were like, "Oh, what's wrong with him?" Even in the playing game, and even against like the Hawks that first game, and then against the Bulls, people were like, "Hey, this guy Bam is not, he's not this type of player." But every round, ever since the play-ins, this guy just against the Bucks, against the Knicks, against the Boston, he's just been playing fantastic defense, and he's just been showing up offensively when they need him to, and when he wants to. So those two guys, they've been hooping, and just the role players. I mean, we said it, right before the series started. It's gonna be, if Miami role players can keep this up, they're gonna have a fun time playing against the Celtics. And whatever they did against the Knicks, they came into it against the Celtics, and they're shooting lights out. Guys like Struss, guys like Caleb Martin, guys like Duncan Robinson, guys like Lowry. A lot of these role players coming off the bench, they're playing the role, and they're showing up fantastic. So for them to support Jimmy Butler and Bam, and Spoelstra turning a bunch of these undrafted guys into some hoopers, what a story for Miami. 8th seed, about to make it to the finals, and they're 1 game away from it. So congrats to them. But Boston, we spoke about their inconsistencies in this playoffs. Their 2 stars inconsistencies in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. These guys, they're come in late game situations and they're just chilling in the corner, or Marcus Smart's taking his shots and Brogdon's getting his shots up, but you don't see Brown try to get his. But they're deferring to those 2 guys. They're deferring. They're passing the ball around, and I don't know. It just looks like a whole different Boston team to me compared to last year. And I'm not gonna blame Joe Mazzulla on it a lot, but it's going to be 60-40 on the players and Joe Mazzulla. So for me, them missing Ime, it shows a lot on the defensive side of the ball. They're not rotating. They're doubling a lot. They're not putting effort in defense.
I mean, these guys are historic on defense last year. Like, literally historic.
This year, to me, it's just they're not showing that same type of energy. The energy is not there as like last year, where they're coming in every type of rotation. They could switch every screen. They had people playing great defense. But this year, to me, I don't know. So, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown this series, I feel like, their performances has been some shit. Jaylen Brown, I don't know if it's his hate towards Boston or whatever's been going on with him this whole year, but the fan base and everything, him, not being happy not coming into the season, but mid-season, but he hasn't shown me anything this playoffs, especially against the Hawks. And who they play first round? I forgot who they played first round.
Yeah, it was the Hawks. It was Hawks Sixers.
Yeah, he was Hawks. Yeah, those 2 rounds against the Sixers, against the Hawks. He only had a 30-point game against the Hawks, and other than that, he's been okay. Against Harden, he double teamed and gave up that big game when he shot. He wasn't a big contributor in that series, and this series again. So I don't know what they're gonna do. I feel like it's pretty much over. They got to pay Tatum and Brown $600 million for not showing up in the Eastern Conference Finals. So Boston got a lot to do and stuff. So shout out Miami, man. Shout out Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, man. Tuesday night. That's gonna be game 4. I'm gonna be pulling up in a suit, all black, because that's the Celtics funeral on that night. Jimmy Butler's gonna put the nail in the coffin and end this franchise for good, and send these guys into a frenzy of an off season. And so, the Boston Celtics. I had the Heat to win this series in 7. It's looking like it's gonna be a sweep when they take care of business on Tuesday. But man, oh man, everything that I've said is kind of coming to light. These guys rely heavily on that 3 ball. And that 3 ball is just not falling for this Boston Celtics team. When you can get downhill and get to the basket and kick out to open shooters, and get these guys to knock down shots, like I said, it's one of the best brands of basketball you can ever play, and that's why the Celtics were so successful in the regular season. But I got to give credit to the Heat defense, man. These guys have taken away each and every option, and the Celtics are not they're not helping their case by breaking all of these 3-pointers. Like tonight, I believe they shot less than 30% from the 3-point line. Overall, they're probably shooting in this entire series about like 26-27%. And so these guys just aren't hitting their shots. And this is a team that lives and dies by that 3-point line. And to speak about Joe Mazzulla before I get into this entire series, he came out today and said that he didn't have his guys ready. And I feel like this guy, they gave him an extension mid-season, and so he'll be around for maybe a couple more years. And so But overall, this guy has lost the locker room entirely. The voice, the message is not getting across to all these star players: Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, all these key contributors, Marcus Smart, Brogdon, and Al Horford. There was a couple of times in this game tonight where Al Horford was commanding the huddle and timeouts. I think they called a couple of timeouts in that third quarter to kind of stop the Miami Heat's run. And Joe Mazzulla didn't necessarily have a word to say for his guys. It was just pretty much Al Horford, their veteran, leading the way and trying to get these guys riled up and ready to go and ready to battle. So he can kind of string along some stops and get a comeback going. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. The Miami Heat, these guys have shown fight each and every series, going all the way back to that Milwaukee Bucks series where these guys were the underdogs. And now these guys are each and every game, similar to the Denver Nuggets, these guys come in with a chip on their shoulder. They come in with the expectation that, with the mindset like, okay, we're the ones that are down 0-3. We're the ones that are down 0-2. We haven't accomplished anything. We know what the main goal is, and this is all just stepping stones into getting there. And so, Jimmy Butler, phenomenal. Grant Williams, you don't poke the bear. You F around and you find out. And that's exactly what happened in game 2. When things weren't necessarily going in Miami's favor, I think the score might have been 96-87 at one point in that fourth quarter when Grant Williams started talking shit. And next thing you know, Jimmy Butler strings along a nice 6-7-8-0 run to sway the lead back in their favor. And then after that, the Boston Celtics pretty much had no answer for that. And tonight they just pretty much came out flat. They came out with pretty much zero sense of urgency to win that game. Kind of similar to the Lakers, where you have your backs against the wall, but little bit of a different situation because you're going on the road. Lakers are at home, but still, you're down 0-2. You got to somehow, some way, kind of climb back in this series. And the Celtics pretty much they laid down in tonight's game, and pretty much the starters didn't play in the fourth quarter. Marcus Smart played a couple minutes before they pulled the plug on him, and so these guys have tossed him the towel already. Mentally, physically, these guys just aren't capable to keep up with this Miami Heat team. When you got guys like Caleb Martin who are stepping up each and every game, and they're getting contributions from Kyle Lowry and Max Strus and Duncan Robinson, a guy who fell out of the rotation when Tyler Hero was still playing for them. To now find himself in the series being effective and a strong shooter, it's just gonna hurt. So the Boston Celtics, man, a couple in our last episode, or maybe been a couple episodes ago, when we talked about them collapsing right in front of our eyes. I think it might be coming to light, man. Regardless of whether or not how we feel towards guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, the Celtics kind of have no direction right now. They lost a head coach that took these guys all the way to the finals and pretty much turned their season around last year in January. And then now they're in a situation where they're going to get swept off the floor in the Eastern Conference Finals, taking a step back of what they accomplished last year. And so these guys pretty much have no direction, and Jason Tatum, we can talk about him being a superstar all we want, but this guy has 0 points in these 3 games in the fourth quarter, 0 field goals made in the fourth quarter. I'm sorry. But he's not in the fourth quarter. Who is he come crunch time? And Jaylen Brown, I've conceded and I've already said that this guy is not the best player on this Boston Celtics team. I always used to think it was a 1A, 1B situation. It's not. Jason Tatum's a clear number 1. Jaylen Brown's a clear number 2. And Jaylen Brown, he's struggling heavily right now. The Celtics, they rely heavily on these 2 players, and these guys not coming up and showing out to play. That's the reason why these guys are getting swept off the floor. When you get to this late in the season, the Western Conference Finals, the NBA Finals, your stars got to take you home. And right now we're seeing Jamal Murray and Jokic do it on the Western Conference. We're seeing Jimmy Butler and Bam do it on the Eastern Conference. So it's looking like we're going to get a Denver Nuggets and a Miami Heat NBA Finals. Whether people want to tune in and enjoy that or not, I'm going to be sitting there and watching each and every single game, man, because that's going to be real hoops on display. And so, the Boston Celtics, there's not much time for them to turn their season around. They're not going to listen to their head coach Joe Mazzulla. I'm not too sure how much better these guys can play these next couple of games. And so, I'm going in with the expectation for the Miami Heat to just take care of business in Game 4 and pretty much prepare themselves for the NBA Finals and whoever comes out of the Western Conference. Pretty much, as we all know, the Nuggets, and depending on when they take care of business, whether it's in Game 4 or in Game 5. And so, all the credit in the world to Miami. A couple months ago we were talking about Pat Riley's incompetence and him sleeping at the trade deadline, but look where the Miami Heat are now. Pretty much a game away from clinching the NBA Finals. What is the second finals berth in 4 years. All the credit in the world to Spurlestra, man. Are we ready to confirm and sit here and say that he's the best head coach in the league? I think I can say he's the best head coach.
Yeah, it's not particularly close. I don't think it's close at all. There's not whoever's number 2 closest to number 3 than they are to him. I mean, the stuff that he's doing with this roster is it's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, by far number 1 right now. You put any other coach in that position, I don't think I don't think Miami Heat will be where they are right now. So Spo definitely, man. He's been a fantastic coach for years. Now he's just finally getting his praise. So it's good to see.
Of course, we'll be looking forward to watching Game 4 on Tuesday night.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now late, now that's overkill.